Jake's the mic, okay?
I'll let you know when I get there.
I'm in.
So, on the way to Nashville, I checked the schedule, and to my surprise, I found that I gave a talk today. Richard was so kind to put me on this. I said, well, I have a long flight from Pittsburgh to via Chicago here, so I did this presentation. And I came up with some graphics which I hadn't done before. So I just want to fill you in what this project is all about. This is what I'm talking about, a little bit motivation, talk about the bibliography, give you some internet sources which just for you can enjoy this by yourselves, and then I will just read to give you an outlook what's in store. So the motivation is a bit like this. So we know, although this chap, or the slide rule user, as depicted by Diego Rivera in Detroit, not a very happy fellow. So calculators, and I was interested why? What's it? And I'm not. This is paperwork. So people who did slide rules could solve amazing problems. They got us to the moon, and they did the Golden Gate Bridge and everything. But complex applications needed to be programmed, and this is why we get into the age of Henry Horn and PPC and other and calculators. And there was, for a very brief period, an explosion of literature where people started doing things for themselves. And that I was interested in, sort of the bibliography of calculators. And this is sort of what Richard says, sort of, we should document the history of that. And this is what got me started. We got the documentation for hardware manuals, we got the HP Museum, we got the journals, we got Jake's PPC CDs, we got programs, we got Eric's homepage, but there was no record of books, and I was interested in those books, and I always had to put some pieces together. So I sort of had a 5-hour layover at the Linz airport in Austria. Linz airport is about the size of this room, and there's not much to do. So I had my laptop with me and had some HpCalc catalogs from Jake's, from the HP Museum. So I just went through all these HpCalc catalogs, and by the end of this 5-hour layover, I had about 200 books. So, and then this was 2007. And in 2008, in 2012, I reported about this, wrote something in data file, and I hit about a saturation probably in 2011 or so with about 1,000 books. So I didn't find any new books, but I did find, for my sort of internet explorations, I did find articles, which I then decided, well, what the heck, I might put them in as well. And then sort of, currently there are 3,937 entries in this bibliography. You have this on your thumb drive, and if you're sort of really deprived of sleep, sort of just try it, it works. So,
what's that, is that 1,000 entries in metric?
pardon?
Is that 1,000 entries in metric?
No, this is
937, that's English.
There's that 3,937.
Sarcastic remark.
Sorry. It's
39.37 inches, 1 meter.
By the way, it took 6 or 7 laptops about 5 hours to copy the thumb drives because of it.
It's a fairly large Excel file, and I'll get into that. But yeah, I started, and I found it fascinating. I'll show you 3 examples. And I got about half of those entries I got in electronic or paper copy. So if someone's interested, about 50% chance that I have it with me. Okay, and here you can see. So I started 2008, then hit the saturation point 2011, and I said, well, what the heck, put in the articles. And then at this jump, and you can see here, it is, well, again, hitting a bit saturation, but this is more not the problem that I didn't find these things that have more material, but just time problem to get these things in there. So slowly but slowly, I pick up things, and I try to improve. One interesting byproduct of the thing is this analysis of when these things were produced. And this graph probably sort of is intuitively clear that the maximum here, this was the first one, 2008, this was the first one, so we got about 60, maximum was about 60 publications here in 81. And then you have this steep decline and then sort of a little bit of a fat tail here. this was the age of the 41, where the publications mushroomed, and then sort of when PCs became really popular here in this period, the whole thing levels off. So these publications are now sort of superseded by publications how do differential equations with Mathematica, MATLAB, or Maple or whatever. So, but this, over the years, I got more and more references. The shape of the curve didn't really change. So the maximum remained there where it was, and the fat tail remained where it was. And I think, to be honest, I think I could fatten the tail a bit, because all this educational stuff, there's tons of stuff out there about how to use graphic calculators. I got some Malaysian references in this. For some reason in Malaysia, these things are popular. I can't read Malaysian, but from the photos I can see in the articles. It's a Malaysian article about graphic calculator, so I put it in there. So there's more here, especially in that area. But over the years I will put it in. But I think the overall shape will be the same. So these were the heydays. And then we live here now in the fat tail, happily, of course. And so to give you the minus here, the articles are still very incomplete, especially electronics and surveying, and there's fields which I simply don't have access to the literature. Yeah.
I can't. Do you have anything in the various conferences that were held in the 80s and 90s?
Yeah, I went through those. Yeah. I went through the PPC journals and I went to Datafile. I didn't.
Not IEEE, but there's various computer conferences in which they had calculator papers. I know because
those conferences are sometimes not online available. I'm not sitting down in the library to do this.
Them, so
you're my man. So let's increase these maximum a bit. So the problem here is also there. I only speak German and English, so I'm woefully unaware of any other languages or references in other languages. So those aren't underrepresented. That's just a sampling effect. Books I think are quite well covered, at least in English and German, and I think also in French. Spanish, for example, I'm sure that I'm missing out a lot of Spanish books because there's in Latin America, there are tons of stuff out there. The good thing is digital repositories are improving all the time. People are putting stuff in. Journals open their archives, and people scan material and put it online. I don't ask here for the how they do the copyright, but it's online available. For example, you can have probably 15 or 20 years of Byte magazine ready for download. Okay, I want to show you 3 samples which I think are quite interesting. I have to do with the primitive way. There's one thing I found, which unfortunately was done with the TI, is, can I scroll with this? No, I can't probably. This is a guy called Snyder found a complete new map projection for a mathematically very complex thing. This is when you have a satellite going in a very complex orbit around Earth, and the satellite takes continuous sort of images, and you want to make sort of photos or maps or anything from that, or want to evaluate that. That's complex because it's an oblique Mercator projection. The oblique thing is really bad. So this was unsolved. And Mr. Snyder was a chemical engineer, who was fascinated by maps. So this is the man. So he changed his career, quit his job, became cartographer became president of the American Cartographic Society. He won every prize and is considered one of the great cartographers of the last century. So he started. And this is a publication I found. So this was VTIs. It's on the Library of Congress. And one guy actually got these calculators out and recreated. These are when he was a school kid, he did map projections. And so this is a paper I found where this librarian tried to recreate the equations and everything just to show what Mr. Snyder had done. I found this quite interesting. And this is really solving a problem he solved with a calculator, not with a big computer, because he was still a hobbyist at that time.
With a TI calculator.
Yeah, and even
Yeah.
TI, that makes it even more amazing. I know. And then the next one is I mentioned that in another talk, this was done with an HP65. Mr. Feigenbaum discovered a natural constant. And there are very few natural constants around. There's pi, there's Euler, and there's Feigenbaum. And Mr. Feigenbaum played around with his 65, and he came up with show you something which is a fixed point iteration. You probably know from math, from calculus. And what he did, he figured out that whatever you do with certain series, you always end up with the same number, which is now called the Feigenbaum number. And when we're all dead, this Feigenbaum number will exist till the end of Earth. So that's, I think, a considerable achievement. And in this article, he explains how he did it, the discovery. And he explains how in the 70s he sat down and then he started with his pocket calculator here, and did all the iterations. And the good thing is, when you read this, he was very hands-on with the numbers. So he discovered that he's hitting some constant because he's playing with these numbers. So if he just would have dumped it into a computer and then look at the result, he would probably not have given this insight. This is this hands-on approach with a calculator I really like. HP should have gotten this guy for promotional purposes, because, come on, this is a natural concept, probably the most recent, the last natural concept discovered, and this was done with an HP calculator. So now for something with a little bit more bang, the military used, no, this is forestry, this is not what I want to see. Dang, I copied that. There's one program I'll show you, or book actually, which you can download. It's a nuclear blast program for mini calculator. This gives you all the nice graphics and the behavior of shock waves, and this is a declassified or unclassified document you can download from a military database, dtil.mil. There's tons of stuff out there. The military use calculators a lot, and you can find all this there. And I just like the title, Nuclear Blast Program for Mini Calculator. I think that's uplifting, so there's a lot of and there's tons of stuff out there. People did really arcane thing. There was one German PhD thesis where they did analysis on Libyan students, how Libyan students fared better with their computers than a group without. There were some immigrants coming to East Germany, and they had Libyan students. One used the calculator, one didn't use the calculator. They did a study on that. So that was good for a PhD. So there's weird stuff out there. This is just for your information in case you're getting. These is in the on the thumb drive. There are some links to libraries. They're all very well organized. You can just type in calculators, and you will be amused to no end. There are some lesser known databases. This is the military one I was talking about, the Defense Technical Information Center here. This is one which your government puts all the scientific databases for federal research together, tons of stuff. NASA was a great user of. Then you have something which is called ERIC, ed.gov. This is everything educational, and they have the Malaysian stuff in there. So you can, whenever you want to find 5,000 ways to solve an equation with a graphic calculator, you'll find 5,000 references in that database. Not so exciting. This is something which, like what Tim talked about, this is math teaching. And this is a meta database for antiquarian books. Then you can shop around to find the cheapest book on the market. They're highly recommended. Okay. I still a few hundred references lying around, which I have to include. If any of you has any reference, and Jeff was will send me one, so I have one more in the database. Please drop me a line. I'm more than happy to include them. Anything, especially with those languages, French, Spanish, Russian, Malay, whatever, Farsi, Hindi, let me know. And I will think of how to make this database a bit more accessible, sort of that people can download the sort of in a version. So I either probably can do it on Eric's site or a library or something like that, so that we can sort of, it's a bit more visible, because here I just give it out once a year, and that's about it. Okay, that's it.
Thank you.